Hello and welcome back to Books with Not Just Breathe. Well, it's been a long time since I've been on the platform. A lot has happened since I was here, but we're going to talk about that in a separate video if you're interested. That is, in today's video, I'm going to do what we used to do all along, which is talk about a recent book that I read. And that tells you that whilst I have been away for a while, and as I've said, that there's been a lot of changes since I was away, one thing that has certainly not changed is my love for books. And in the months that I've been away, I've managed to read a lot of books. In 2021, I surpassed my Goodreads book challenge by about 4 books. In 2022, I've set myself a target for 30 books in the year, and I'm already on target, if not beyond. Probably I might be beyond target by the end of this month. But anyways, what it means is that all the love that I have for books has definitely not gone away, despite the many changes that might have happened in my life. And what better way to restart the videos than to bring forth another book review video of a book that I read only last month. And if you're also noticing, you'll see that I've sort of changed the way I do the videos. I'm no longer sitting at home with a proper background and doing this video. I thought I would do more impromptu videos. So right now I'm just taking a walk outside in my neighborhood, just near a small little park in the neighborhood, and I'm just shooting an impromptu video. There is going to be a lot less editing. These are going to be very raw videos that I would upload, and I really hope that you like them as much as you did my previous videos. I can assure you that although the videos are not going to be edited and prim and proper looking with the beautiful backgrounds and amazing transitions, etc., it would still continue to talk about amazing books that I've read, and my honest reviews and feedback about those books, and of course my recommendations for other reads. So having said that, why don't we start talking about the book that I wanted to review today. But before that, we want to have a quick look as to where I am. Isn't it beautifully green? Well, it's summer here where I am, and the temperatures have been really warm this spring and summer. So I feel that it's a lot greener than other years or other summers. So yeah, I think it's a perfect place to talk about books, even to sit and read books. I mean, I've never thought of coming here to read a book, but probably I will have a nice summer day or summer evening. But anyways, I'm digressing a bit. So, well, yes, I want to talk about the book The Beekeeper of Aleppo by Christy Leftery. Christy Leftery, probably Christy Leftery's debut book. It's a pretty famous book, I think, because I got it as a recommendation on Amazon, I believe, or on my Goodreads. A lot of people were reading this book, so I just picked it up last month. I did not read a hard copy of this book, neither did I read a soft copy. I read it I listened to it as an audiobook. I use Audible, but you can use any audiobook service that's available. But yeah, I used Audible to listen to this book. It's a fairly short book. I don't know how many pages it is, but I'll probably write it down in the video comments how long this book is, if you're planning to read it either on Kindle or the hard copy version of it. But anyway, so it's probably one of her debut novels, Christy Leftery's. Just a little bit background on Christy Leftery herself. She, I think, studied in Britain. Uh, she was brought up in London, but she is a child of Cypriot refugees. And the reason I'm telling you a bit about this background is probably it will help you understand the entire context from where she comes when she's been writing the book. The Beekeeper of Aleppo, as the name suggests, is about a beekeeper from Aleppo in Syria. So the story is about Nouri, who is this beekeeper in Aleppo. He has an apiary in the city of Aleppo, and his wife Afra, and their lives in Syria, and then consequently when the war breaks out in Syria and in Aleppo, how they sort of cope with the changes that the war brings, and then their exodus along with so many of the Syrian refugees outside of Aleppo and outside of Syria into Turkey and then Greece, and then hopefully into the shores of Britain. So that's what the story is all about. As is evident from the description that I gave, this is a book about the grief of losing one's motherland, about the grief of losing one's family, and about inconsolable losses that one faces in a situation uh, like war, where you are almost you're a victim of the war, no matter which side you're on, but you sort of lose your loved ones, your home, your country, your livelihood, your life, everything, although you're really not part of the decision of being in a war. Now, coming back to the story of the book, so Nouri and Afra, they're well settled in Syria. They're of a middle class family. They're not absolutely affluent and well off, but they're not poor. And as I said, Nouri is the beekeeper is a beekeeper in Aleppo, and he does this with his cousin Mustafa. Afra, Nouri's wife, is a painter in Aleppo. And then, as the war breaks out in Syria, there is an accident in which Afra loses her eyesight. Mustafa has long left Syria already at the start of the war, and he's gone to Britain to start a new life. Nouri and Afra stick on in Syria or stay on in Syria for a while, but as the war progresses and cities are demolished one by one, um, Nouri and Afra decide to take the leap and then leave Syria for Britain. Now, it's not an easy passage on to Britain. They go through a perilous journey through Turkey and then through Greece, all the while staying at different camps, and then facing multiple difficulties, some personal losses, and then also coming across experiences that one would never want to really come across. And then finally, they do reach the shores of Britain. Now, it is not a spoiler that they do reach the shores of Britain, because the book pretty much opens up telling, in a way, subtly telling the readers that Nouri did make his way into Britain. So yes, their journey from Syria to Britain is successful, but they face a lot of challenges on the way. So it's a simple story in that. Now, do I like this book or not? Well, that's the tricky part, especially in the last couple of years. A lot of things have been happening in this world which has made us a lot more anxious than we were probably in 2019 and before. Do we need a lot of literature or books that make us more anxious or make us more sad? Maybe not. Or maybe personally, I think I would rather read books which make me a lot more happier than what the world around me is able to do. I try to steer clear of books that inherently are sad or can have the propensity to make one sadder. In that context, I would say The Beekeeper of Aleppo isn't a very sad book. What I liked about the book is, although the subject is so grave and there is a huge potential to make this book or to make grief the central character of this book, the author Christie had decided not to make grief as the central character, but rather to make hope as the central character and life as the central character. And that's what I liked about this book, that although there is the background of inconsolable grief and personal loss, but it doesn't become the main character of the book. It drives the narrative in the right direction without overpowering the narrative. And the narrative continues to focus on the main characters and on the fact that there is hope, and that's what fuels the novel on, along with, of course, the background of grief. The other thing that I liked about the book is that I have read other books where there has been unnecessary injection of grief into the storyline, something that doesn't really help the storyline go forward, but it is just that the grief is introduced to make that book a tearjerker without really adding much value to the story. In this book, The Beekeeper of Aleppo, that is not the case. Sadness that's there in the story, that's the adequate amount that is required to move the story ahead. Now, you might think that the way I'm talking about this is rather inhumane, right? I mean, it is, after all, probably based on somebody's true experiences, and I'm almost talking about as if somebody is making up these stories and putting in sprinklings of grief and joy or whatever to um, to just sell a few copies of the book. Well, that's not the case. What I'm talking about is from a reader who is already anxious with everything that is happening around. How do I feel about a story which is about inconsolable grief of a true nature, which really happened to people? So, in that sense, I think that, in my opinion, that this has a right balance of hope and grief, and all of these elements push the storyline forward, and they don't seem to be there just for the sake of being there. So from that point of view, it's a good medley of all the emotions um, that are there and that are helping the story move forward. The Beekeeper of Aleppo is a good read. It isn't a very long read either. It is definitely not a very cheerful book or a cheerful story to read, but it isn't also a book that is unnecessarily sad to read. So I would recommend this book as a read. But of course, if you're in a very vulnerable situation, I would say maybe steer clear of this book for now, and then when you're mentally a bit stronger, then pick it up. But other than that, it's a recommended read from my end. Now, just some more background of the story. Now, as I said, Christie Lefteri is born to Cypriot refugees herself, and if I'm not wrong, then she was also volunteering in some of these refugee camps at a later stage in her life, and that's when she came across some of these refugees from Syria. And this book is sort of her way of communicating with the world in the form of stories, or in the form of this story, as to what has been happening. So a lot of this book is sort of I believe, based on a lot of true um, recitals of experiences that the people have had. So it is probably a dramatized version of a true story, maybe multiple experiences from different people put together. And hence, it will also give a good glimpse, or it will also give a true glimpse into how the real life of refugees are and how perilous their journeys are across these different countries, and when they come out of their war-torn countries in search of freedom and peace and a better life. So that's all about the book that I wanted to talk about. I would probably give it a 3.5 star. And with that, that's pretty much the end of the video. I know it has not been a great quality video. I've been fumbling for words a lot, but I promise that I would only probably get better at this. And I really, really hope that you continue watching my videos and continue giving me the support that you've given me so far. And with that, bye for now. And before I leave, another quick glimpse of where I'm shooting this video from. So all this greenery for you. And that's it. I'll see you again next week, hopefully, or soon, rather. Until that time, take care. Bye bye.